Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gemology for Schmucks. My name is Peter Nelson, and I'm here to guide you in everything you need to know about gemstones. I have right here a bag of mystery stones, and some of you lovely people have asked me, what is your process for dealing with mystery stones? So here I am to tell you today about that process. But first, how do we get a hold of mystery stones? Mystery stones you can get a hold of a lot of different ways, but truth be told, if you're in a gem market, something like a mystery bag of stones is actually more common than you think. Sometimes the best way to get a deal is to take some stones off of the hands of a dealer who has had these stones for far too long and they're just tired of looking at them. Many experienced gemologists will tell you that they have a box inside of their safe that has just been sitting there for way too long. And these are typically stones that they bought before they really knew as much about gemstones. So they may or may not be willing to let go of them for a much lower sum than they paid for them. Not always, but sometimes. It's an opportunity. You could try. And in that box is who knows what. Another way to get mystery stones would be something called mine run. If you go to a gem producing area, something like Sri Lanka or Burma, etc., and you go to these areas that have a large variety of stones, because all mines really have a large variety of stones. It might be a tourmaline mine, but there are going to be other types of gemstones that grow in that same area, in that same environment. And so you don't know exactly what's going to come out of that mine. So sometimes what the miners do is they put together a group of stones that they're not exactly sure what they are, but they just want quick cash. And so they're willing to sell you a bag of mine run. Now you as a gemologist get to sort through that and figure out what are these stones and what do I think I can resell them for. So personally, I think that's interesting because I like, breaking apart secrets. And also, it's a great opportunity to profit, because you may find that the amount that you paid for the whole parcel can be satisfied by just a few stones from that parcel, especially if you luck out and find a stone that the miner didn't know was there. Or the dealer. So enough of this blah blah blah. How does the process work? Well, let's get this bag cracked open. So what do we do with a bag of mystery stones? The first thing that we need to do is observe it. So you're going to take a stone, you're going to look at it, and you're going to see what you can perceive. What's the clarity like? How glassy is it? How much luster does it have? This is going to start to give us some information about the stone. So one of the quick first things that I did in this parcel is that I separated them by color. Because some stones, if they have a very similar color, they may also have other similar properties that we can then test and confirm, are these stones the same or are they not? After I have separated them out by color, then I go ahead and I look at individual stones. Now in this parcel we've got a number of very long crystals, which is very typical with tourmaline, and I've dealt with a fair amount of tourmaline working in this shop. So when I look at it and I see that it is a long crystal and it also has different color divisions, I go, there's a strong chance that this is bicolor tourmaline. It's not a guarantee, but a strong chance. Tourmaline crystals tend to grow very long, and having 2 or 3 colors inside of the same crystal is not that uncommon. So I take this stone and then I go to my next step. Now each gemstone has unique properties, but tourmaline is unique in the sense that it has a very specific range of refractive indices. So it has 2 numbers, and that distance between the numbers is quite unique to tourmaline. There aren't many other gemstones that have that same refractive index and the refractive index range that we call birefringence. How do I know that? Because I studied this stuff. When you're dealing with mystery stones, what you're going to need to do is, if you don't know what these stones are, then you need to get as much information as you possibly can about them. Because I already know about tourmaline, I can start to see, does the information that I can test match with my assumption about this stone? And I have to be very honest with myself. If I start to fudge the data, of course I'm going to be deceiving myself. And that's how you shoot yourself in the foot and destroy your reputation. So I think this is tourmaline, then I go and I test its refractive index. I use my refractometer and I find out, sure enough, the refractive index ranges are the same as tourmaline. That birefringence is the same as tourmaline. And so I don't need to go through all of the steps with this piece or any of the other pieces that have similar property. Many of them are the same color, but we've also got some strange colors of tourmaline in this parcel. But between these 2 steps of observation and then checking the refractive index, I am content that these are tourmaline. Done. Don't need to spend a lot of extra time on that one. No, I don't need to go and check the specific gravity. There's no point. Refractive index is not something that you can really fake. The refractive index is inherently tied to individual gemstones. Doesn't matter what the color is. The refractive index tells you something that cannot be faked. Let's try another one, shall we? Now, this stone, this lemon lime colored stone, is a color that I'm very used to being chrysoberyl. And I also found another little baggie that I separated out over here, and these two sets of stones have different properties. So the first test that I went to with this lemon lime stone is I went to my polariscope, because polariscope, if I can find the interference colors, then I will know if it's possible for this to be chrysoberyl or not. Because if I can find those interference colors, it will show me a symbol. And that symbol will help me to know, is this biaxial or uniaxial? That's a property of doubly refractive stones. Now, chrysoberyl is biaxial, which I found in this stone, but these stones had a completely different reaction in the polariscope, which tells me these are not chrysoberyl. What are they? I'm not sure yet. I need to do more tests. So my next test with these is to go over to the refractometer again, my favorite instrument. And once I get some clearer information on what that refractive index is, does it have birefringence or does it not? Now, because of the polariscope test, I know that these are probably not doubly refractive. If they are doubly refractive, then I did something wrong. Or it's also possible that they're too heavily included and they were throwing off the reaction of the polariscope. Now, there are some stones that once I've put them through the refractometer, I don't get a clear number because they're what we call over-the-limit stones. Their refractive index is too high for the refractometer and our modern refractometer liquid, at least the affordable one, to be able to test it. And there's also no real need because there are a lesser amount of gemstones in that category, and many of them have additional properties that we can identify using other tests. We don't need a higher refractometer liquid to test those stones. Many of those stones include diamonds, certain types of garnets, some zircons, and the list goes on and on and on. So here I have some red and orange and pink stones, which are colors that I am used to being in, sometimes in spinel, sometimes in garnets, sometimes in... But I have a feeling, given the price of the parcel, that it might be a garnet. That's not exactly logical information, I can't assume that, so I do need to test them. So let's go over to the polariscope first. Now, garnets and spinel are both singly refractive stones, so I expect a certain reaction to come out of the polariscope. But ooh, the mystery gets bigger. In this little baggie that I've already separated out, several of these pink stones actually gave me a different result that I was not expecting. And I retested it several times in the polariscope and go, what? And so, when you're beguiled by something, you go on to the next test, because in gemology, what we're really doing is gathering information and ruling out options. There's no paper printout that goes garnet, diamond. It's not like that. What you're going to do is eliminate other possible stones using known information, and then you're going to draw a conclusion on what the stone is. So if the polariscope tells me that this is a doubly refractive stone, then I need to go over to the refractometer again and see what is the reading. Can I find that it is in fact doubly refractive, or do I get another result? Now, with these stones, I actually got over the limit, which is typical with garnets. If this was spinel, then I would know it's spinel after using the refractometer, because its refractive index is inside of the range that the refractometer can read. Because this is over the limit, we know it's not spinel. So now I'm thinking about it and thinking back to my gemological training and going, oh, wait. One thing that's unique about certain garnets, particularly pyrope and some almandine, is that they can have an anomalous double refraction, which means that it beguiles the polariscope somehow and makes it seem like there's double refraction going on. I don't understand why that is. All I know is that it happens in some stone. So after the refractometer, and I'm not getting a reading off of that, then I know that, okay, if this is pyrope and almandine, both of those have a spectrum that is very clear with the spectroscope. So I pull out my favorite tool, the spectroscope. And sure enough, after observing those under the spectroscope, I am able to see a spectrum that is familiar to me as almandine or pyrope, and they're in the same family. They have different spectra sometimes because they are different minerals that intergrow with each other, but it's still going to be a familiar spectrum. So once I see that wonderful spectrum, then I know, okay, this is a garnet, I can leave it alone. And I'm sure there's some of you out there that are like, Peter, where's the loop? Where's the dichroscope? Why aren't you using those? Because once again, I'm trying to gather information that supports my theory and helps eliminate other stones. A dichroscope is only going to tell me if this stone is pleochroic, and that's going to be attached to its doubly refractive nature. If I already know from the polariscope that it's doubly refractive, then this does almost nothing for me. In the field, the dichroscope is really useful, but in a laboratory setting, it's not necessary, because a polariscope can tell me most of the information that a dichroscope can tell me, if not more. This is really clear for showing me, does it have strong pleochroism or not? And while that is useful information in the field, especially with how portable it is, it's not necessary in a laboratory setting. And what about the loop? Don't leave home without one, right? That's absolutely right. But a loop is not my first test. A loop is something that I do to try and gather information after I have certain known variables. Once I know the polariscope reaction, once I know the refractive indices, then I go for my loop to see what kind of inclusions are in the stone. Are there any patterns or types of inclusions that are typical with the type of stone that I am suspecting this stone to be? Maybe I have a list, and the types of inclusions can clear up for me what is the true identity of the stone. So yes, a loop is very important, but it's not the first test, probably not the second test. But as I was saying with these suspected garnets, once I found the spectrum, then I don't need the loop. But if I'm still a little bit on the edge and I would like some extra, comfort and a pat on the back, then I can use the loop to look and see that, there are inclusions that I'm used to. There's certain types of needles, certain types of crystalline structures that I'm used to in both garnets and also spinel. They can look quite similar on the inside at times. It's important not to jump to conclusions when you're testing your stones, because you will find that even though some stones have almost the exact same color, if not the exact same color, they can have very different properties. So some of these tourmalines have the exact same color range as the 3 pieces of sapphire that I found in this parcel. And I mean to tell you, those are very different price points. So do your tests, find your answers, and make sure you know what you've got in your hand before you go talking. As a gemologist, if you don't know, what you say is, I don't know. And you leave it at that. When people try and push you and say, well, you gotta know, well, then you can just tell them, I'm sorry. The world is full of complexities, and until I am certain, given the evidence, I am not going to speak on what this is. It's like talking about aliens or ghosts. They may be out there, but until you are sure, you don't blab about it, unless you're on anonymous internet forums. So anyhow, if you would like to learn more about gemology and investing in gemstones, head over to gemshepherd.com. If you'd like, please leave me a comment down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and tell all your friends about me. And until next time, I'll say bye-bye.